everyone. Welcome back to the 15-Minute Fix, where we are giving you personal and professional development tools on the go in 15 minutes or less. I am your people expert, Kasha L. Gordon, and glad to be with you today.
And I'm Kimberly Robinson, your process expert.
So today, Kim and I are going to be talking about how to stay engaged while working from home. So we thought this was a really important topic because we know that a large percentage of the workforce has transitioned recently in the last few months to a space of working from home. Now, many people might say this is a blessing and a curse. On the one hand, a lot of people have expressed more flexibility, time with family, being able to get some projects done that they didn't usually have time for. Their blood pressure has gone down because they're not having to cuss at people in traffic on I-4. Many, many benefits. But on the other hand, a lot of people have expressed some difficulty in working from home because you're trying to balance all of the dynamics of your full home and family life and also still having a full work schedule. Have you transitioned to working from home, Kim?
Yes, I was thankfully already working from home prior to the pandemic starting. So I was able to kind of get a routine down, but it was still a bit of an adjustment just with everything else going on.
I wasn't working from home previously, and during the last few months with the pandemic, I was able, thankfully, to transition working from home. And so that has been, we call it a daily adventure at my house. And we'll get into a little bit more about that later on. But I will say about working from home that one of the interesting factors is that there are a lot of studies and articles out there that are showing that levels of engagement in work have actually fallen a lot during this time. And there's various reasons why. And some of the reasons we mentioned earlier about just that balance and trying to juggle everything that's right there. Your family is right there. Your priorities with home life are right there. And also your work is right there.
Yeah.
But staying engaged is really, really critical. And some of that may seem obvious, but I'll point out a few additional things that people may not think about. The first thing is your overall productivity. It's very important to stay engaged so that your productivity levels don't fall. We know that just because we're working from home, many of us at work don't have any less demands on us. So we have to stay productive and engaged. Ultimately, when we're not as productive, it impacts negatively our company's bottom line. And we know that companies have expectations of their workers, helping them to meet their bottom line, those financial numbers in the business. So that engagement is important for that reason also. The other thing is it impacts team dynamics. So if you are very engaged, but you have team members that are not, or vice versa, that can negatively impact team dynamics if one or more persons on a team is not engaged during this period when you still have team projects and team responsibilities. So again, that engagement is critical for team momentum. And then finally, not being engaged can ultimately kind of spiral downward and cause some personal burnout. So Kim, can you give us some process and some strategy around how can we really stay engaged during this work from home period?
Definitely. And you touched on something really important, which, I think we're personally worried about. We all have personal investment in our own jobs, and our companies are, frankly, invested in this as well, is the productivity piece. A lot of companies didn't plan to have people working from home, and especially as many that are. So we have to do our part to hold up that end of the bargain. And I think in my personal experience and just some things that I've read to, just think about how to organize my space, having a routine was key. In addition to our jobs, Kasha, as you mentioned, people are also juggling their home lives, which is now in some cases schools lives. So we have all these things in one, and really just setting up a routine about how all of that will work, what that looks like. For me, that really involves, keeping a similar routine to what I would do if I was still commuting to the office. So you wake up, you do your personal hygiene. If you do meditation in the morning, your workout, getting your coffee, getting dressed. I think we don't always think about that. Some of us like to work in our pajamas, but I find that having that routine and staying in that frame of mind really helps me get into the mindset of work. And not just that, but thinking about what the end of our day needs to look like. And we'll kind of touch on that a little bit later, but really just kind of having a schedule. Some of that may be planned around meetings if you're someone like me that has several meetings throughout the day, and just really finding that balance and staying on track. In addition to having a routine, you want to get organized. Organization, I think, probably comes more naturally to some people more than others, but you have to find whatever organized means for you. So you need to have a dedicated place where you can work. You need to make sure that you have all the tools that you need to be able to complete your job. So, be it equipment, be it paper, pens, whatever that is, minimize the number of distractions that you have by having the resources that you need available right at your fingertips in that dedicated workspace that you have. Something that's really important, and Kaja touched on this as well, is you want to stay engaged. And I think that means a number of things. So number one, what does your communication strategy look like? I think that, not seeing people face to face, it's easy to default in a routine of only emailing. But I have tried to be even more intentional about picking up the phone to make that connection, because I think it's meaningful to lots of us who are across the board are working remotely. In addition, sometimes that human interaction can go a long way, especially when we're all in a space and probably managing things differently and, at a greater level than we were when we were in the office. What do your checkpoints look like with your team and your managers or other people that you would otherwise be connected with in the office? It may be a good idea to have some time set aside to, whether that's formally or informal, to just connect with people outside of your workspace. And then you want to be proactive about that too. If you can plan again some formal times, that's great. The next thing to keep in mind is that, we should all feel really empowered, in this space. Are you still actively taking part in decisions that your teams are making? How are you, bringing your team together for decisions that you may have to make together? How are you impacting your team? I think it's easy to sometimes work in a silo when you don't have to see people, but you definitely want to make sure that you feel empowered to continue to bring your team together to work together on things where you may need thought partnership or just to be a part of a larger conversation. In that, I think that it's important that we keep it top of mind that, prior to this, we had some personal and professional goals that we wanted to, take into account. So, don't throw those by the wayside. You don't have to feel like you're out of sight, out of mind. Keep those clear, defined goals in front of you for what you'd like to accomplish, and really look at them and strategize how you can still go about achieving them, even in this space that's really a new normal for all of us. They don't have to be out of reach. Talk to your manager about them. If you have a mentor, that would be a really great idea to connect with them to just understand how you can re-strategize if needed. But you certainly want to keep that at front of mind. And I think that helps us in our day-to-day as we stay focused on what we're working on.
Two things that you brought up that I really appreciated, Kim. The first one was thought partnership. And to your point, thought partnership does not just have to be your direct manager. It doesn't even have to be your team. It could be a mentor. It could be someone that you want to mentor. But that idea sharing, number one, it provides connectivity. But also, to your point, it keeps you not just in your own thoughts, which can get into a rabbit hole, but it keeps you on task personally and professionally with accountability, which is something that we talked about last week, and goal setting for yourself.
Definitely.
The second thing is something that you mentioned that was important to me was having a dedicated workspace. I'm huge on that. So wherever you decide to set up shop, everyone may not have a dedicated office space, but for example, I don't do work in my kitchen or in my room, or I like the relaxation space, the living room to be the living room, the office to be the office. I don't eat lunch in my office, and I don't do work in the kitchen or in the dining room. Everything has its dedicated space, and it really helps me in my psyche just understand when I'm at work versus when I'm able to relax. I can't relax if I'm checking emails while I'm eating lunch at the dinner table and my family may need my attention for something. And so, yeah, having that dedicated workspace is so important. Something else that's important during this time that's come to my mind is about self-leadership. All of this, when I'm hearing you talk about this, I'm a huge leadership guru of sorts and a leadership buff. And something that was important to me is leadership. So if I might share some resources on that, a book that I came across by Ken Blanchard is Self-Leadership in the 1 Minute Manager. So we'd like to recommend that to you all as a resource during this time. Check that out by Ken Blanchard. And also The Energy Bus, 10 rules for life, work, and Team, Bringing Positive Energy. And that one is by John Gordon. So check out the Energy Bus and also Self-Leadership and the 1 Minute Manager. So those are two good resources that I'd like to recommend.
Really great tools. And I think that connects us with our last point, which is, you want to have that space to disconnect. My original thought was, have a time to disconnect, right? So as we talk about routine, what does the end of the day look like? But also having a space to disconnect. Kasha talked about how she has two different spaces and she doesn't intermingle the two. That may look differently for you depending on where you live, but it's really more of a mental thing, I think, than anything. You have to have an opportunity to be able to break away from the work so that you can personally recharge and really just get into the frame of mind when you're in work versus when you're out of work. And I think that's really important to keep you on track because you definitely don't want to get to the point of burnout, right? Because burnout is one of the key ways that we can start to feel that level of burnout. So we have to be intentional about that disconnection piece.
Maximize your weekend so you can come back and do it all again another week.
Yes.
Maximize your weekends and your night.
Absolutely. And I think that's a part of the routine, right? If you typically work a 4 or 5 day week, try to keep that same schedule. Unless, we understand that different things may happen where that has to be extended. But if you can try to stay on the same schedule while you're working from home, whether this is a temporary or permanent move for you, that makes the transition that much easier. I think our minds and our bodies are already on that routine. So really just working that into your work from home routine.
Absolutely. And your study at home routine. A lot of these translate into now virtual learning environments. These same principles apply. So we'll say work/studying at home.
Absolutely. I really like to throw out a challenge there because aside from all of these things, I think that what's most important is maintaining self-care. So we've given a lot of great tools about what you do when you're working from home and how to stay on track there. But I think that we need to put self-care as a top priority. I think we're all facing a lot in our personal and professional lives. As Kasha mentioned, some people are supplementing as assisting their children if they're learning virtually. So you really want to create time and space to make sure that you're making self-care a priority. If that means getting up and committing to stretching during the day, walking around, taking a walk, drinking more water, getting more rest at night, waking up a little bit earlier so you can get that workout in or just have some alone or quiet time, really work in the self-care. So that's our challenge for you today. We want to challenge you to at least set one goal of self-care that you can do this week and something that you can keep on going. We want to hear about what those are. Comment below, let us know what you're committing to. We'll hold you accountable to them.
Thanks, Kim. Great strategies as always. Great connecting with you. All the best in your transition to, continuing to work from home, but all the best in your journey.
Same to you and same to all of our fixers out there.
Thank you. See you all soon. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.